Censoring the facts turns our children into idiots. They claim it's for our safety. I'll tell you what it really is. Removing information that empowers all the citizens. The truth doesn't damage points of view that are legitimate. They're trying to change amen to amen and women. How'd we let them make praying a microaggression?
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Dion's Daily Dose. Tonight we're here with Shawn. We're just going to get right in because we're a little behind. So, plus, it's fun. Hi, Shawn. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
As always. Okay, so I'm actually going to let you kind of kick us off and talk about, I say briefly, like the things we're covering, if you know, at least your part, and I'll talk about mine.
All right. We're going to talk about how the FISA reauthorization failed to even get a vote on the actual bill. They failed on the rule.
And we're going to get into it. But one of the things they're talking about is this shows how, you know, Johnson doesn't have the power and this and that and the other. I think it shows something else, but we'll get into it.
All right.
Go ahead.
And then we're going to talk about how Biden might not be on the ballot in 2 states of Alabama and Ohio. And then the third one is George Soros is he's buying up radio stations across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And then the conspiracy theory for tonight is the chemtrails.
Yeah. So chemtrails is a much maligned term that it just refers to all the lines in the sky that weren't there when I was a kid. We can talk about what that is and what's the real reason for it and all of that, but there was not the level of lines in the sky from clouds when I was a kid. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I don't remember it either.
No, you might see one, right? You might go outside and see a jet, right? And maybe there were, quote, contrails, right? Maybe. But in general, and that was usually only if you live by a military base. Regular passenger jets don't leave contrails. Like they just don't. I live close to an airport. I know this. But yet we see them often. So we'll talk about that later.
All right.
And then so the things that I want to talk about, there's a Supreme Court case that they're hearing the arguments for right now. Have you seen this?
I've not followed it very closely.
It's Gonzalez v. Trevino. Okay. And it's out of the far left state of California. And it is an interesting case. We'll get into it more, but it's essentially, it's kind of a free speech versus governmental authority. It's weird. We'll get into it. And then let's see, what was the other one? They're trying to kill us with Lunchables now. What's the other one? Applesauce. Lunchables and Applesauce both are going to kill us now. Then we can add this. You know, like I'm starting to wonder if maybe instead of a quote conspiracy theory segment, we just do a list of things that are kill us. And every week we add to it because it certainly has been that way for the last several shows. Every freaking show we're like, oh yeah, and by the way, don't eat this because this is packed with cancer. And don't eat that because this is packed with cancer.
Like we did Band-Aids the last show.
Right? Yeah, Band-Aids and PFAS, which interestingly enough, good segue, look at you. The Indiana Attorney General, Todd Rokita, which I like Rokita personally, but you have your issues with him, and many other people do. But I think in this particular case, I'm like, okay, because he's actually started a PFAS lawsuit.
And that's good.
It is a good thing because, again, everything is trying to kill us. Band-Aids and etc. So we're going to talk more about that as we get into it. What do you want to start with?
Do you want to start with the FISA?
Yeah, let's talk about FISA. Okay, so first, give me your quick rundown for the viewers as to what's going on.
Okay, what's going on is the House of Representatives had a Rules Committee markup meeting on Tuesday, and it was revealed in that markup that members of Congress get notified if like an inquiry of them happen.
Okay.
Like if they are doing an investigation.
If they're being investigated
but the average person doesn't.
Okay.
And then also there was a lot of fighting, which was kind of debating between the inner parties, like two people from different parties were arguing about like if you should get a warrant or if you need to get a warrant to get to investigate people.
Right.
It was just interesting. And then also that in blocking the rule that they did, there was going to be a vote. There was in the rule. They were going to have a vote on whether or not they needed to get a warrant or not.
Okay.
And by blocking the rule, they never got to have that vote.
Right. So basically, they wanted to make it to where at least they could hear arguments for why this or that should be in the bill. Amendments, right? But what they did was they made it to where
they don't even get to the bill.
Right. There is no basically votes for amendments, right? Now, is there still a chance that that could come up again, or is it dead?
I was reading today that it sounds like Speaker Johnson is going to try to, he's sending it back to the Rules Committee.
Okay.
And they're going to have another markup tomorrow.
Okay.
And then they're going to send it to the floor tomorrow night. And instead of it being a 5-year authorization like they wanted, the only thing they're going to change, it's going to be a 2-year authorization.
Okay.
And
I think it's a step in the right direction.
Also, the reason why Matt Gaetz and some of the other people voted against the rule was they wanted a rule where would ban the government from buying up the information that, like, they buy information from, like, when you are, let's just say, a Myers Reward member.
Right. Yeah, we talked about this last time. Yep.
They wanted to have a part of that bill where it'd be banned, the government would be banned from being to buy that, purchase that data.
Okay.
But that was never in the bill, so they wanted that in the bill.
Right.
So what I would have done was just try to get what you can get, because they only have a 2-seat majority in the House.
Right, which is something that we've also talked about before. I mean, it's a razor thin margin. So, all right. So if they are unable to get it passed, right? What happens to FISA? Is it dead?
What's probably, yes, if they don't get a bill, they won't be able to do that.
FISA.
No. So
that's what I'm striving for.
So what's probably going to happen, I think that won't happen again. So. What'll probably happen is the Senate will pass a clean bill where it'll be a 5-year authorization, and we'll have to wait 5 years again before we have this opportunity.
And I will say this. So I disagree with a lot. Basically, I disagree with the vast majority. I'd say 99.999% of our government. But in this particular case, I understand what Johnson was saying, and I don't necessarily disagree insofar as, okay, at least if we can get this passed, get it knocked down to 2 years, right? Get these certain things that we want in it, like we're needing a warrant, for example, right?
Which it should be.
It absolutely should be, because let's look at what happened with the Trump campaign.
Yeah.
FISA was able to illegally and unlawfully, whatever freaking term you want to use. I know there's, people out there that are very particular about grammar the way I am, but we can't say the N-word. I'm talking about Nazis, man. I better specify. I better specify.
Yeah.
There are people who literally say on the internet, right? No, look. So there are gains that can be made, right, in that. At the same time, I'd like to see FISA completely done away with. I believe that there is already a process in place for gaining warrants to tap someone's phones, to do this, to do that. You have to meet the burden of proof. FISA, on the other hand, you don't need to meet the burden of proof. It's this weird end around of the U.S. Constitution, and I know it was started because of the Patriot Act and all of this crap. That, you know how many cases have actually been solved due to the changes that were made because of the Patriot Act? Have you ever looked at it?
Probably 0.
Yeah, like maybe 1.
Okay, 1.
I think I've got it somewhere, but I actually have, it's a graphic from the ACLU of all places, but it shows the number of times that it's been used, right? The number of effective, uses, right, that it actually resulted in a conviction of the people it was designed to go after, aka foreign entities, terrorists, things like that, right? No, it's been used primarily for tax evasion and regular, quote, regular enforcement. Yeah, it's stunning. And I had to dig. If you go to ACLU nowadays, ACLU.org, I think it is, if you go there and you actually look for it, it's really hard to find nowadays, interestingly enough.
Yeah.
But I was able to track it down. I have the graphic. One of these days we'll actually look at it. I don't have it. It's on the phone. But it might be in my X feed. But anyway, no. See, this is why I normally, I don't know if you guys heard, but my cat's like, yeah, this is why I normally lock my cats out before we start a show. But I'm like, they're laying down. They're being good. They'll be fine. Yeah, no.
Yeah, 11 minutes into the show.
Yep, yeah, and already we have a troublemaker. Yes, we do. Okay. So FISA, again, like I said last time we talked about FISA, they're going to do what they're going to do. By all means, pick up the phone, but I legitimately don't think they care. No. These reps, these senators, I don't think they care at all.
They don't care
about our phone calls, about our indignant behavior, about our fact that, the fact that we get angry when they do or don't do something. These people don't serve us, not anymore. They serve their donors. They serve themselves. Yeah. And, I saw something interesting. I think it was actually an Elon Musk tweet that he talked about how once these people get elected, right, their goal is getting reelected. It's not serving you. It's not serving me. It's getting reelected. So what happens is they delegate all the important stuff to their staff.
A lot of times, yes.
And the staff are actually who run Washington, D.C.
And it was kind of funny not funny, but kind of ironic that during the committee hearing when I was watching it, they asked them a question, the Nadler. I don't know if you know who Nadler is.
Yeah.
But
Ralph Nadler?
No,
you're talking about, or are you talking about somebody else?
Congressman Nadler from New York.
I had a different.
Well, anyway, he didn't know the answer to the question.
I was thinking the guy who crapped on himself. Ralph Nadler.
Oh, but anyway, he
allegedly for entertainment purposes only. Anyway,
he didn't know the answer to a question, so he asked a staff member.
See?
In the middle of the hearing, it was kind of,
and it shows. It shows. Really, and if you pay attention. That's how it works. And it's why these bills are delivered with no time to actually read them, because the staff people already know what's in them.
Yeah.
Because they wrote them. These senators, these congressmen, they don't write these bills. The groups write these bills, and the staff members are all connected. It's why me personally, were I to be elected to go to Washington, D.C., the first thing I would do is fire everybody on the staff. That's just, I would start with bringing people that I trust from my hometown, and they would work for me in Washington, and we could navigate the swamp together. Because no.
So what would you do with this FISA bill in the House? Would you vote against it completely? Would you vote against the rule?
Yeah, I'd vote completely against FISA. I think FISA is a violation of our
even if
absolutely no. Even if there's no ifs, ands, or buts, I'd vote against it. I would also and it's one of the things that I believed strongly going into running for U.S. Congress. I'd try to repeal the Patriot Act. Period. In the story, I understand the mentality at the time, because it was all it was messed up, right? And we can talk about whether that was intentional or not and planned or not. But the point is, and the end result is, checkers, get down. Yeah, we're gonna have to kick him out. All right. So the whole, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
The whole issue, the entire thing that the Patriot Act was supposed to solve, right? The inability to do this and the lack of that. Again, if you look at the actual stats, its effectiveness does not justify the bite out of the Constitution that it initiated. So, I'd vote against it wholeheartedly. Done. Yeah.
Even if they got the warrant? provision?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's just now, if they were able to narrow it down to 2 years, right? And got the warrant provision in there.
And take out the Congresses are exempt.
Yeah. Because you know what? They need to be and that's another problem I have. These people need to be held to the exact same bullshit that they passed for us. This special fund crap and they have a special fund that they pay for SA allegations out of.
I've heard that. Yeah,
it's absolute fact. Look it up. There's a special fund that they have access to that they can pay for. And yes, there are arguments that can be made that, it's just easier to pay it off than it is to fight it, right? Large companies in many cases have this, right? It's easier to just pay the 10 grand or whatever to this person to make them go away. It's far cheaper than taking it and fighting it and doing this and doing that. Nah, take it all the way. And then when these people, if in this case, they're shown to be liars, right? And they're, shown, well, we just wanted a payday. They need to be publicly humiliated, dragged through the public square. I mean, I'm so tired of all of that. But at the same time, if someone is found to be guilty, and I mean via a legitimate, I'm not talking about the New York crap with Trump. I'm talking about a legitimate trial with legitimate evidence. They're found to be guilty, strip them of rank, send them to prison. Yep. Period. End of story. Stop having different rules for different, different strokes for different folks. No, damn that.
And they're not supposed to be above the law. We hear that all the time about Trump.
Yeah. No one is above the law except Democrats. Yeah, as we've seen in countless cases when they talk about Trump inciting violence, right? You look at
Maxine Waters.
Yes, Maxine Waters. Oh my God. Anyway, I could go on. But we're told over and over, right? Nobody's above the law. Well, I want to see that exemplified. I want to see that shown. And we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it at all. So Jack said each Indiana state rep has 6 aides hired by their party. They're college students. They are the staff. Actually, they get 1 and they share it. I don't know about the Senate, but the state reps have 1 aide and it's shared with another.
Yeah, the Indiana House.
Yeah, I know this because I ran and I actually knew who, the whole system, because I sat down and figured it out because I wanted to hire. I thought it was like U.S. Congress, right? To where you could bring your own people, because I wanted someone that I knew and could trust and all of that. But no, it's 1 person. Generally, you're right, a college student, an intern, and and Jack says they may have changed in the past 20 years. I'm sure that the rules have, but the current way is there's 1 assistant and it's shared with at least 1 other representative.
I think it's with the entire conference for the state.
Like 1 person is shared throughout? No, it's for every 2 reps, there's 1 aide. Yeah, there's half as many aides as there are reps. So it's why you can't get anything done. Like when you try to get in touch with your state rep, there's never an answer from her. You may, if you're lucky, you might get an email back from the assistant, maybe. But as far as actual action, the most action I've ever gotten from her was a letter. And it wasn't even to me. It was a situation that was happening. I'm not even going to get into it, but there was a situation that was happening. I wrote and I'm like, hey, you guys need to be aware of this. Yes, I'm running for office, but this needs to be fixed before I get in. This is a problem, right? And what she did was she wrote a letter to the governing board that I was talking about. And that's it. That's all she ever did. Big shock. Big surprise. I'm not running now. She's freaking useless. Completely, utterly worthless, and she smells like urine. Okay, so I'm just saying. The 2 may be completely unrelated. I'm just saying.
Well, anyway.
Anyway, moving on. So look, in Ohio, they are ruling that Biden could be left off the general election.
And Alabama.
Ohio and Alabama. So why Ohio? Let's take a look here. Let's see. Whoops, wrong one. I changed it a little bit. There we go. Yeah, we'll do that. I don't think we need it right now. There. Don't show this again. Got it. Okay. So he could be left off the ballot in Ohio unless the GOP-led state legislature makes an exception to Ohio's ballot deadline, or the Democratic Party moves up the nominating convention. Basically, the problem, I believe, in both states, right, is that the Democratic convention,
it's so
who
late.
picks the president, their nominee.
The delegates.
Yeah, the delegates pick their nominee. Much like Indiana does, but Indiana is for like lieutenant governor and other positions. The Democrats in Ohio, they pick who's going to be on the presidential ballot. So Ohio actually set the deadline for August 7th.
And I think the convention, the 16th.
Let's see here. Is scheduled to convene on August 19th.
Okay, 19th.
So more than a week after the August 7th deadline. So either the DNC has to move it up, or the Ohio General Assembly must act by May 9th, 90 days prior, to create an exception to the requirement. What do you think? I'm sure that I'm positive that the Republicans are absolutely positively have a fire lit under them in order to get to work to make sure Biden's on the ballot. What do you think?
Yeah, they're going to have to move up the convention if they will.
Yeah, if they will. I don't know. I'm going to say this. Did you see how little regard they had for the primary voters in New Hampshire?
Mm-hmm.
The DNC? Did you guys if you look, they're basically like, yeah, we don't care.
Yeah.
You guys do what you want. Go vote. Don't. We don't care. They don't care about you.
No.
They don't care about you.
They say it wasn't diverse enough. That's why they don't like New Hampshire.
Right. Yeah. Because white people bad. And yeah. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right?
Well, I know that Trump is going to win Ohio and Alabama, so the electoral college vote don't matter. But the popular vote might make a difference with the popular vote. It might, yeah. We might have a situation where Biden wins the electoral college, but Trump wins the popular vote.
It's completely possible.
Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, because I foresee some serious problems if that happens. I'm not telling anybody to do anything. I want to make that perfectly clear. But I have friends that have said in no uncertain terms that if 2024, if there are shenanigans, is going to be a problem.
We want peace.
We do. We want peace. And I was going to get off into the whole, peaceful transfer of power and all that crap. But you know what? I'm not even going to bother because they made their bed. They made their bed. Now they have to lie in it. It's that simple. So when you wall off the people's house,
which they did
with razor wire, bro. No, you don't get to talk about democracy. This and no, I'm done. Just saying. Alabama, same situation, right? With the Ohio thing, right? So again, after state of Alabama's statutory deadline to provide a certificate of nomination for president and vice president. Their deadline, Alabama's deadline is August 15th. Okay. So 4 days before the convention. If they want to do it properly, then they're going to have to move the convention up before August 7th.
Yeah, I'm wondering, I was trying to research on why they have the convention so late, and I can't find it anywhere. I don't know why it's so late this year.
It's really weird that it is so late. I'm looking.
I remember the latest that I've ever remembered is the last week of July and the beginning of August. I've never seen it this late.
Right. Let's see here. So according to the Biden campaign spokesperson, quote, Joe Biden will be on the ballot in all 50 states. The Biden campaign spokesperson said in a statement, quote, state officials have the ability to grant provisional ballot access certification prior to the conclusion of presidential nominating conventions. In 2020 alone, states like Alabama, Illinois, Montana, and Washington all allowed provisional certification for Democratic and Republican nominees.
So we'll see. Hopefully.
Yeah, but the legislature has to rule on that. And it's here's again, I'm just going to say it. They made their bed. They have called us every name in the book. They have called us racist. They have called us everything, absolutely everything. If you disagree with the insanity they're putting out, then you're automatically far right. Automatically.
They call Elon Musk far right.
Right.
Which he's definitely he's not.
No.
He's
left.
Not. He has some left tendencies.
He has shown consistently he's pretty liberal. Like he's pretty actually, I would almost say, like, especially a few years ago, like radical even. He was buddies with Obama. That's how he got Tesla started. There are tons of examples. But when you disagree with the narrative, you're labeled an extremist. Yeah. And again, this goes back to FISA, right? That's all they need is to say you're a domestic extremist. They don't even have to call you a terrorist anymore. Domestic extremist or far right extremist or white nationalist or all these little couch terms, right? Just out of curiosity, how many times have you seen personally white nationalists marching down the street setting fire to things? I haven't seen any in Michigan City, Indiana.
Oh, okay. I'm
talking you personally in your experience.
No, I've never. I thought you were talking about
on the news or any of that. No, I'm talking about locally. Do you see it? No. You know what I have seen? I have seen BLM march to Lighthouse Mall and break windows. That's what I've seen. Yeah. So this bullshit about white nationalism is the new biggest threat? No, absolutely not. You can sell that on CNN. It ain't going to fly in quote flyover country. No. It's not going to fly because there's no example. Dude, in the years, I'd say I worked at Indiana State Prison, as you know, and in the years and years and years, all the jobs I worked at, I only met one actual KKK member. One person. One in all those years. Like, this is not the threat they make it out to be. It's just
they're making it bigger.
They make it a bigger deal because that's what sells. Fear porn. It sells. Whatever. Like, these people are not worthy. They're not worthy of respect anymore. They're legitimately not. And they burned that bridge with Trump because that whole respect the office, right? And they talk 7 miles of crap about Trump. And people were like, yeah, but he's the president. You may not like him, but he's the president. You should respect the office. Do you remember this? And they were like, no, he's this and he's that, and to hell with that. And okay, all right. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And I feel the same way that you did then. So the rules you set are the ones I'm going to follow.
Yeah. They set a precedent.
Bingo. They set the precedent, and I am more than happy to exist within the confines of said precedent. No problem.
Yeah.
So pretty much nothing's off the table as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they called Trump every name.
Yeah.
Every single name. Everything. They even said he was a pedo. They called him everything. But yet, when we have actual documentation via Ashley Biden's diary, which, did you see there's a video where she actually called Project Veritas to ask for her diary back?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's her on the phone, and she's like, I really don't want to get Secret Service involved because it's a process. It's a big thing. So I'm just asking you, can you give it back to me?
And I think they gave it back.
Yeah, they eventually did. But the funny thing is they raided Project Veritas. And look, like, I don't know if you guys have paid attention, but there's a lot of maybe we should get into this in conspiracy theory, but there's a lot of claims out there that James O'Keefe is controlled opposition, and he's working with this group, and he's in pockets of this group. I don't know about all that. What I do know is I've seen the video. It is Ashley Biden's voice confirming it's her diary, and asking for it back and saying, I really don't want to get the Secret Service involved. I'd rather not, but they locked down the office, raided them, took a journalist into custody.
And she was just sentenced to a month prison. The person that stole
that stole the diary. Yeah. And that's why Project Veritas chose not to run with it, because it was fruit of the poisonous tree. But that, just so you guys know, that's okay from a journalistic standpoint. You can use stuff. They did nothing wrong. But they decided, you know what?
We're going to stay away
from this.
Wasn't it another website? I think it was Gateway Pundit or something that ended up publishing it.
New York Post ended up running with the Biden diary. And that was what got them kicked off of Twitter and all kinds of stuff. Twitter 1.0. They got them yeeted off.
Okay, it was New York Post.
It was New York Post. And then Catherine Herridge was actually looking into the Biden laptop and all the stuff that went with that. And I just saw, did you see the Senate hearing?
Yep.
Was it Senate or House hearing?
I believe that was.
But I saw
the House.
I didn't see the whole thing, but I saw a clip from Forbes. And it basically, quick summation, she's an award-winning journalist who has worked for years for other networks, including CBS. She was there for like 4.5 years before this crap. And she's been critical of the government because that's what you do as a journalist. You look into the claims the government makes and you go, yeah, this is not adding up. She did Fast and Furious under Holder.
Yep. And
Obama.
Benghazi.
She did Benghazi. She actually did some stuff in the Bush administration prior to that.
Cheryl Atchison testified in front of the House too today.
Yes.
And she's a really good journalist too.
She is. She's isn't she on
she got a syndication show on, I want to say NBC. I think she's part of NBC.
Did you see they fired Ronna McDaniels already?
Yep.
Yeah. They hired her and then like 24 hours later, gone.
Because all the people were saying nasty stuff about her on MSNBC.
Again, you guys made the rules. I'm just playing by them. So, I got no, bruh. You know me, I'm outspoken anyway. I don't give a damn. All right. So, Alabama, Ohio, done. Let's move on to Soros.
Okay.
So, what we got here, again, from the New York Post, George Soros Fund tightens grip over U.S. radio waves after controlling bankrupt Odyssey. That's how I'm going to say it. I'm going to say Odyssey. I don't know if it's right. Don't care. I don't know why that's playing. Soros Fund Management, founded by billionaire investor George Soros, is tightening its grip over the U.S. radio industry after scooping up a majority stake in bankrupt radio company Odyssey. The fund's February investment in Odyssey, the second largest radio firm in the U.S. behind iHeartMedia, potentially marks the beginning of a larger audio buying spree. 3 people who have been involved with discussions with Soros executives told Semaphore. In those talks, Soros's fund, which is now controlled by the magnate's nonprofit organization, Open Society Foundations, heard about them before, has privately mulled acquiring other major radio companies, including AM and FM giant Cumulus Media, according to Semaphore. We're talking about some massive names here. Yeah. iHeartRadio is the biggest. Odyssey was the second biggest, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the second largest radio firm in the U.S. behind iHeartMedia. And then another giant is Cumulus Media. So they're talking about buying that up. As the largest shareholder in Odyssey, Soros Fund Management already owns 230 radio stations nationwide, including New York's WFAN and 1010 WINS, as well as Los Angeles-based KROQ, per bankruptcy filings, as well as a podcast arm that includes Cadence 13 and Pineapple Street Studios. The fund also took on roughly $400 million of Odyssey's sizable debt in its corporate maneuver. The fund's lead media investor, Michael Delnin, has arranged meetings with multiple heavyweight players in the digital media and audio space over the past year, including at podcasting firm Project Brazen, per Semaphore. Normally, I don't get too deep into this, but this is some really good information, and we guys need to be aware of this. Delnin has also mulled an acquisition of Pushkin Industries, the podcasting and audiobook company co-founded by Malcolm Gladwell, as well as podcast network Lemonade Media, best known for its Wiser Than Me show with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, sources told Semaphore. Separately, a podcast industry insider told the outlet that Limonada, which also inked a podcasting deal with Meghan Markle in February, oh my God, is in the middle of a formal process. Who actually legitimately watches her? I gotta know, dude. Like, are there people that tune into her and are like, oh my God, she has such insightful things to say?
I know I wouldn't waste my time listening to her.
Right?
But I
Who
know
the
a few
frick
people
watches that?
I don't know. I know a few people who are fans of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, but I'm not.
Bruh, like, come on, man.
Did you see
Anyway.
the South Park episode when they burned them bad?
No, but I've heard they were mad about it. I've heard they were really, really mad about it.
Yes, they were really mad.
Anyway, potential clients have refused to pay the company's high asking price. Okay, so basically they're like, yeah, we want to buy this out. And the people who, have the Meghan Markle show are like, we're worth $1 billion. And they're like, no, you're worth $5. I don't know. However, the Federal Communications Commission has regulations that limit the number of radio stations a single entity can own. Keywords, can own. In addition, in September 2022, Soros also invested an undisclosed amount in liberal podcast network Crooked Media. Oh, there's a name. Semaphore reported, which is home to the popular, quote, Pod Save America, which averages upwards of 1.5 million listeners per episode. I've never heard of it. Pod Save America. Have you heard of that?
I have not.
Interesting. Okay. Anyway, that it's liberal, it says, so it's not really that out of the realm of possibility that I've never heard of it. That same year, a Soros-backed firm played a key role in Univision's $60 million sale of 17 Hispanic radio stations to a company run by veterans of Democratic politics, per Semaphore. Republican representatives at the time warned Soros was trying to take over Cuban radio, according to the Miami Herald, with one right-leaning media startup warning in a text blast that, quote, the international socialist billionaire was, quote, trying to silence conservative Spanish voices with the purchase of, end quote, WAQI 710 AM Mambi. I don't know what that, Mambi? I don't know. When Soros' Odyssey investment was announced just months later, a Republican insider close to the situation told the Post at the time it was possible Soros was buying the stake to exert influence on public opinion in the months leading up to the 2024 presidential election. Do you think that might, gee whiz, Williker, could it be?
And some of those stations are Chicago-based stations as well. 560. I was looking at the list. 560 AM is down there.
Yep.
And 105.9 WBBM.
Yeah.
So
there's some actual. I don't want to say decent radio stations because I don't know that any radio station anymore is phenomenal. But there's some actually listened to. Let's say let's put that. There's some listened to stations in this list, and I don't know if you guys like. I'm sure you do, but if you've been paying attention to the fallout from the whole Facebook push of 2020, that 2019, 2020, where they were banning political ads and basically limited what Donald Trump could say, and then kicked him off for a little bit, then restored him, then kicked him off, and there was all this stuff, right? In the meantime, they were feeding tons of money into local election boards and doing different shady things. Now, some areas have actually crafted legislation to prevent this from happening again. But not enough places, in my opinion, have actually tackled it the way that it needs to be. So we have, in my opinion, provable election interference on Facebook, Google, all these left-wing companies. At the same time, we have, and look, you can call it whatever you want. Soros is a POS.
Yeah.
He sold his people out. Period. End of story. You can call him whatever you want. You can say criticizing him as this or that or this or that. I don't care. I don't care. The man's a POS. And if you look at where his money goes, forget about the man himself. Look at where the billions of dollars he has are spent. They're spent in ways to undermine our country. Yeah. End of story. Look at what the open society does. It's not about an open society. It's about a tyrannical, controlled society. So, yeah, there is no scenario where there's no scenario where him buying up all these radio stations is a good thing.
Nope.
Just no scenario whatsoever. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. And so you know what? I'm gonna show you guys this because I do think it's important. So Odyssey filed for bankruptcy on January 7th with $1.9 billion worth of debt. Under its current Chapter 11 bankruptcy plan, existing shareholders are expected to be wiped out, and high-ranking creditors like Soros would be repaid with stock in the restructured company. So that's how it works. That's how the whole scheme works. They rack up all this debt, then they file bankruptcy, right? And you get an instance where, oh yeah, what we're going to do, we're going to wipe out this debt and we're going to take it away from them and we're going to give it to you because you own more of the company than they do. That's exactly what happened in many instances with BlackRock and these other institutions that hold high value stock. When they're not making money anymore, they wipe them out, take their stuff away, give it to high value shareholders like this guy, and then they're allowed to redo the company however they want. They can restructure it, they can nuke it, they can do whatever the heck they want with it because they are now the owners. Yeah. One more thing from this article. Yeah, representatives didn't respond, don't care. The reins of open society foundations, which funnels about $1.5 billion a year to liberal causes, were recently handed to Soros's youngest son, Alex, a 38-year-old NYU grad who said he was picked partially because he is even, quote, more political than his elderly dad.
He's very political.
He is very political. And you know who he's dating, right?
Yep. Uma Abedin. Yeah.
Follow the wives. I've heard those of you who know what I'm talking about, fine. Those who don't, I don't have to, we'll derail the show to explain it. But the short version, all these people that are like in our government, especially these agencies, it's all wives or husbands in some cases of people in other parts of the government. If you look at many of these media companies, the CEOs, the head of this, the VP of this, the VP of that is the wife of this other person. Yeah. There's a massive chart, man, that I've got somewhere that like lists it all, and it shows all the connections. I did a show on that years ago. Yeah, I think it was from what was the Epic Times. They had done the whole. It was about FISA and the way it came about and the connections. It's pretty deep. I might draw it on the wall over there.
Yeah, you should do that.
Yeah. Anyway, so I wanted to tell you that because I think it's really important to know who's connected to who, and it's when you see these people, in these deals, Huma Abedin, like, she's one of the most disgusting people I've ever like learned about, put it that way. And to see her shacked up with him tells me a lot. It really, really does. I want to show you guys a clip real quick because I think it's awesome. It's on Rumble, so hopefully I don't get any issues over it, but I don't care. I need you to see this because I think it's awesome. Let's see, what's
this the video you said earlier?
Yeah, this is so. I'm sure you guys know who David Hogg is.
Yep.
I want to show you this video because this lady, she's from China. She's an immigrant here. And he's, of course, all about the gun control, right?
Name is Lily Tang.
Hold on, let me
Hi, my name is
stop it.
Hi, my name is
Oh my goodness. Stop it. Why does it autoplay when okay, so look. Here, I'm going to actually move us to the top because I think it'll be that way you can actually see there it is. All right, so check this out. This is good. Can you see?
I will try to watch it from this screen.
Okay. It's not that important to see the video, but what she says is phenomenal, okay?
Lily Tang Williams. Welcome to my live free or die state. Actually, I am a Chinese immigrant who survived communism. And under Mao, 40 million people were starving to death after he sold communism to them. And 20 million people died, murdered during his Cultural Revolution. So my question to you, David, is that can you guarantee me, a gun owner tonight, our government in the U.S., in D.C., will never become a tyrannical government?
Okay. Brilliant. Freaking brilliant. Because she's saying, dude, I know what happened in China. Mao killed tens of millions of people. You don't hear a lot about Mao. We talk about, Hitler. We talk about Stalin somewhat, right? But Pol Pot, we don't really talk about him. And Mao, we don't really talk about him. Tens of millions of Chinese people died.
During the Great Leap Forward.
Yeah, the quote, Great Leap Forward, exactly, which was the foundation of communism in China. So she had, can you guarantee me, right? Because that's what they're saying. If you give us all your guns, we're going to be able to protect you. That's what they're selling, right? Are you telling me that it will never become tyrannical? So I love this. Here we go. Listen.
Can you guarantee that to me?
There's no way I can ever guarantee that any government will not be.
Well, then the debate on gun control is over because I will never give up my guns. Never. And you should go to China to see how gun control works for dictatorship of CCP.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, incredible, dude.
I wish she would have won her race. She ran for the New Hampshire.
Oh, did she?
For U.S. House in New Hampshire.
Oh, okay.
But she didn't win.
Yeah, that's somebody that I would.
Yeah, I know who that is.
Okay.
I've seen her before.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, she nailed it.
Yep.
Nailed it. And look.
I don't know her personally, but I mean, I've seen her on TV.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's not like not like you invite her over for dinner, but you're familiar with her. Right. And these are the kind of people, in my opinion, that we need to stand up against the BS talking points that come with something like gun control. Because unfortunately, you see outright lies. And you know what? I'm gonna use her because it's so funny. Maxine Waters, right? Her and Sheila Jackson Lee, especially her, have made some of the most ridiculous, outlandish, provably false statements when it comes to firearms of anybody I've ever seen in my life. Provably false. I can't remember if it was Waters or Lee, but one of them I know for sure because it's been a little while since I've seen it. But it was the claim that an AR-15 weighs as much as 10 boxes.
I'm not sure which one of those.
I don't remember which one said it, but then it was they fire 50 cal bullets. Like it was just unhinged. Absolute. You can. Here's what happened. What I'm willing to go on record, right? To say, here's what I think happened. I'm probably wrong, but I think she watched like Fast and the Furious, right? Or Commando, some old 80s action movie, and then assumed everything she saw was true.
That could be.
In many cases, like that's where their knowledge comes from. Because look, if you happen to come across this video and you're anti-gun, that's your right.
Yep.
All I ask is that you get educated first, right? You can be as anti anything you want. This is America. That's what I love about this country. But you should learn about it. Don't be one of these people who says, guns are bad. And when you're asked why, go, because they are. Learn about it, right?
Yeah.
When you say assault rifles should be banned and someone looks at you and goes, define assault rifle, and you get this glazed look in your eyes because you don't know. Because that term has been thrown around over and over and over, and people don't know what that means because there is no meaning to it. It's one of the things that, like I mentioned when I was running, was you hear all these BS talking points on TV about ban, the assault weapons ban, right? Of 80 to 90, right? It's 80 something to 90 something. It was 10 years that it ran, and it reduced violent crime, not at all. There was zero reduction.
I think it was 94 to 2004.
Something like that. I know it was like, it was in there.
I think.
And there were no appreciable changes, right? Because criminals don't give a damn about the law.
No,
That's the point. They're criminals. That's why they're criminals. Become educated. Go to your local gun range. I think that's the best way. Go there. Talk to a firearms instructor. Actually shoot. Learn the thing you fear, right? Or at minimum, I'm sure you can find someone who's an enthusiast who is willing to let you go with them to the range if you're too scared to touch it, and they can show you because they're a tool.
Yep.
Just like a power saw.
Power
saws can be dangerous. Power tools in general, right? The drills, people can and have drilled through their hand with them. I know.
Oh,
yeah, I know.
Knives too.
Yeah. I mean, in the right, like a baseball bat.
That's
in the
true,
right
too,
hands is dangerous. Anything can be dangerous. Your house, like there are plugs, those are dangerous. Things are dangerous. Life is dangerous. But by learning, you can reduce the danger and increase your safety. And in almost every instance, it's the great equalizer. It will make it to where someone smaller and weaker has as much or more of a chance against someone bigger and stronger, which is why gun control is anti-woman.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, it is factually anti-women. End of story. Because you're taking away the capability of someone to even the playing field.
Yep.
I know. I got off track. I want to show you guys something though. This Gonzalez v. Trevino SCOTUS case.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know a lot about it.
So I was going to play. Matter of fact, I may still play the clip for it. Let me bring it up. It is interesting because. No, that wasn't it. So here's the rundown on the case. So this lady, her name is Sylvia Gonzalez. She was a resident of Castle Hills, Texas. She was elected in 2019 to the city council. Okay. I'm going to show you. This is from, let's see. This is from oyez.org. And it's basically a rundown of the case. During her campaign, she learned of widespread dissatisfaction with the current city manager. Again, Castle Hills, Texas, city council. After taking office, she organized a non-binding petition calling for the mayor's removal. Basically, a petition to gather as many signatures as possible and prove, yeah, we want you to step down. The petition was presented at a contentious council meeting, after which Mayor Edward Trevino questioned Gonzalez about the petition's location, found in her binder. 2 days later, Trevino initiated a criminal complaint against Gonzalez for allegedly stealing the petition. Despite an atypical legal process involving Chief of Police John Simmons and Special Detective Alex Wright, Gonzalez was arrested and spent a night in jail. She is no longer on the council and has refrained from public political activity. Gonzalez sued Trevino, Simmons, Wright, and the city, collectively the defendants, for violating her First and 14th Amendment rights. She argued that the arrest was in retaliation for engaging in conduct protected by the First Amendment, but she conceded that there was probable cause for the arrest. In support of her retaliation claim, she cited a decade-long review of misdemeanor and felony data in Bexar County that showed no similar cases. Now, here's the argument for the Supreme Court, right? I listened to a little bit of the argument today, and the clip that I actually heard that I was going to play for you, but it's kind of irrelevant and kind of long, is Kavanaugh saying, but in this circumstance, we have willful grabbing, stealing of government property, right? The argument, so here's the thing, right? The defendants moved, show you guys, the defendants moved to dismiss her lawsuit grounds of the independent intermediary doctrine and qualified immunity. But the district court allowed Gonzalez's claims to proceed. On appeal, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit reversed, finding that the outcome was controlled by the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in Neves v. Bartlett, holding that in general, the existence of probable cause will defeat a retaliatory arrest claim. You can't claim that something's a retaliatory arrest if you legitimately committed the crime that they're saying, right? However, the Fifth Circuit noted that Gonzalez's facts did not trigger the narrow exception recognized in Neves, under which a plaintiff need not plead lack of probable cause, quote, where officers have probable cause to make arrests, but typically exercise their discretion not to do so. Now, here's why this case to me is interesting, right? Because it's about officer, what's the term? Basically, they have the discretion, right? Officer discretion, but there's a term for it where they can choose whether or not to arrest you, right? You know what I'm talking about. I can't think of the term, but so in this case, here's like the whole case, right? She picked up the papers and she just threw everything in her binder, right? I legitimately don't think she was trying to steal the petition. Okay. I think she just grabbed the stuff and threw it in there. I saw the video of it. It was just her throwing stuff. And then I think the mayor was like, got her.
Could be.
Now, if it's the case that it's never been prosecuted before in this county, right? Then the Supreme Court will have to decide, is probable cause enough? Or is officer discretion never being utilized? Is that a contributing factor to the case? And then how does that translate with First and 14th Amendment rights? Oh. I'm very interested in this.
That is an interesting case.
It is. You know, we're not going to figure it out right now, obviously, but I'm going to be interested to see how they rule. Put it that way. It has potential long-term effects, in my opinion, when we're looking at First and Fourth Amendment v. or I should say Supreme Court decisions, right? We're looking at how is this going to change things moving forward? If then they decide, well, yes, this is retaliatory because normally they wouldn't have prosecuted, but in this case they did. So it does show, like, how is that going to filter down to other cases? Because, man, could be
interesting case.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not going to get too deep into this one. I'm going to show you guys. If you look up Indiana AG files PFAS related lawsuit against 22 companies, look it up, read it. I would say the most interesting part about this is he's going after big names. Like, we're not talking about, Jack's grocery store. We're talking about DuPont, 3M.
Wow.
Yeah. These are 3M, AGC Chemicals, Archroma, BASF Corporation, Carrier, DuPont, Dynax, Tyco. I mean, big names. Now, real quick, just because your aversion when I said Rokita, what do you not like about Rokita?
He just seems uppity, and
okay.
I've met him one time, and he was not very friendly to me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've heard that behind the scenes, he's not a very nice guy.
Okay. Interesting.
So,
I don't know anything about behind the scenes. I met him twice. The one time he was snarky with me, but to his credit, he kind of had a reason to be. It wasn't unfounded, put it that way, right? Could he have addressed it differently? Maybe. You know what? I'm just going to tell you. Okay.
Right.
So in, what would it have been? 2020. In 2020, when he was running for the primary for Attorney General. Okay. He was calling all the delegates. I was a delegate in 2020, right? Which was a terrible convention, non-existent. It was
that
virtual.
The one when it was okay?
Yeah.
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah. Anyway, so he was having his team call the various delegates, right? And so he called me, and it was his team member, right? And the guy's like, I hope we can count on your vote. Da 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 da. And I'm like, well, probably not. And they were like, why? And I said, well, I've heard some things that I don't like, and I'm actually going to be backing somebody else. And they were like, do you mind if if you ask why? Yeah, blah, 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 blah. And we got into it. And I said, here's why. And it is what it is, right? It was this reason, this reason, and that's just like the way it is. So post primary, after he had won, right? I went to, I think it was the Lake County Republican Lincoln Day dinner, right? Because I was running for office, so I had to go waste my money on all this bullshit. So I went to it, and he was there. Look, let me clarify something just for those of you who are like, maybe don't know this. Like, your local county party, that's their one fundraising thing. The Lincoln Day dinner, that's when you might have a golf outing or something else, but in general, they have a single fundraising opportunity, and it's usually the Lincoln Day. Lake County sucks. So that's why I was like that. I support the LaPorte County GOP, and that's one thing I want to talk about with Al when he's on, but we had to reschedule his because he wasn't going to make it home in time. Kind of hard to have a show if your guest isn't going to be there. So, but he had, and the reason I know he knew me was because my wife actually worked with his brother.
Okay.
And I mentioned that to the guy. I'm like, yeah, my wife knows his brother, like the family, they know like each other, right? His brother is very non-political. So he's like, no, I don't want to be. So at this thing, I forget exactly how it transpired, but basically he was like, thanks for keeping the faith, real snark. But I told him, I'm like, hey, congratulations, man. You won. Moving forward, you got my vote because, You know, it is what it is. Now, that said, I think it was 2022, when I met him at the LaPorte County Lincoln Day dinner, I said, look, man, I'm just going to tell you, I didn't believe in you. But you, in my opinion, you've done a really good job.
Yeah.
And hey,
he's done a lot
good
as
job.
Attorney General.
And that's, yeah, as an individual, I don't really know him. Like you say, I've heard some things. I've experienced some, and I'll say this. And if you guys want to dig, you dig, because I'm not. There are certain people that are in his circle that I am not a fan of. They're slimy, disgusting, clamor to like gravitate towards power type of people that will do anything and sell out anyone. Just leave it there.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Put it this way. It's not too far away from us. So I'm not going to say any more than that.
All right.
However, because it's not important, right? Doesn't matter. Me announcing their name is going to change anything. It is what it is. That said, the things that he's actually been able to do as Attorney General, I'm in favor of. For the most part.
He's done a lot.
He has accomplished a lot. A lot. One of the things that is going to be interesting about this governor's race, and the reason there's a segue there is because Curtis Hill was the former AG. Now he's running for governor, right? One of the interesting things is the Curtis Hill campaign is trying to utilize the letter that Curtis Hill wrote, well, the opinion that he had administered saying Eric Holcomb did not have the authority to enforce a mask mandate.
Okay, I remember that.
Okay. They're selling that as, look, Curtis Hill is anti-mask. He's not going to do this. And maybe that's true. And you know what? Like, there are certain people that are like, so what? He wrote a letter, you know? And there's, you know, something to be said for that camp. At the same time, like, at least he stood up for it.
True.
At least he said something. So I don't know. I'm really torn on whether Rokita would have done the same thing in that position.
Yeah,
what do
I don't
you
know.
think?
Probably not.
I don't think so either. I don't think he likes rocking the boat as far as like, I put it this way. I think Hill was willing to stand up against Holcomb. And that says a lot. That does say a lot. However, they had already burned their bridge. Those two like did not get along since day one, because my understanding, could be wrong, but based on things that I read, when basically the new session, you know, you got your new governor and your new AG, right? And they march in there. My understanding is Holcomb tried telling Hill, you're going to do this and you're going to do that and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And Hill told him to kick rocks. I don't work for you. I work for the people. Wow.
Oh, Holcomb didn't like that.
No. He doesn't like that at all.
No.
And so I heard something really, really recently that I find interesting. So let me set the stage for you. Okay. Before we go into the last couple of stories, because I want to. All right. I read a very interesting poll, okay, about governor candidates right now. Okay. The way the polls go in and how people are doing. And then I read the whole thing. It was interesting. One of the things that came out about that is that allegedly Eric Holcomb is backing someone, but not his lieutenant governor.
That's interesting.
Who do you think it is?
Probably either Chambers or Dalton. Probably Chambers.
Called it. It allegedly, and it's easy to check, look it up, or you'll probably be on it in just a minute to find out. Allegedly, Holcomb's his campaign manager for like the entirety of his term, you know who I'm talking about? Kyle Hupfer.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Kyle Hupfer allegedly resigned his position so that he could go be the campaign manager for Holcomb's handpicked
for Chambers.
guy.
Oh.
Yeah, or Doden. I don't
Okay.
remember which one. I think it's Chambers too. I think it is Chambers. Because Doden's weird, dude. There's something, I'm going to tell you, there's something about Doden I do not trust.
Was it Chambers the one who said when they asked him about what kind of governor he would be, I think he said
Mitch Daniels.
Mitch Daniels.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the one. His ads, as a matter of fact, now, his ads are currently embracing the Daniels legacy. He's talking about basically, if you want a businessman, you elect somebody like me. You know, the last time we had a businessman, it was yeah. I mean, he's leaning into the whole Daniels thing, and I think it's a horrible idea for him.
That is.
Which, you know, yay, because the guy's so fake, dude. He is so fake.
Was it him or Doden that refused to grade Holcomb?
That was Doden.
That was
Yeah.
Okay.
Doden was the one that's a coward. He refused. I got to give Chambers something. At least Chambers said something.
He said
I don't
A.
agree with it.
Didn't he give Holcomb an
Yeah,
A?
yeah. He gave him an A across the board and everything.
Uh-huh.
That told me everything I need to know about the man.
Uh-huh.
Because if you can give Holcomb a straight up A across the board without even bringing up COVID, then you agree with him and you should never, ever be anywhere near the halls of power.
Uh-huh.
Period. End of story. You are not for America. You are for censorship. You need to go your ass to China where they love that shit. Get out. Like, I'm so done with that because we see it like all the time. These people run for office and they claim one thing, right? And then once elected, like Elon said, they spend the entire rest of the time trying to get reelected.
Yeah. They spend so much time fundraising.
Yeah. Yeah. And the days of true grassroots campaigns are just about dead.
The only one I can think of that really had a grassroots campaign that is Wisconsin Senator, what's his name? The senator from Wisconsin, Johnson. He really had a grassroots campaign.
Did he?
Yeah. Ron Johnson.
Ron? I was just about to say, is it Ron Johnson?
Yeah, it's Ron Johnson.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't. I tried, but like, number one, especially if you're going to try to get elected to Congress, money. Way more money than you think it costs. Whatever you think it costs, triple that. And then you may come close. We're talking millions of dollars. I think I ran my race on like $2,500. And I won LaPorte County, so I mean, you know, no, but it's really sad when you look at what has transpired with our country. Like, I would argue that at least 75% of the laws on the books, I'm talking federal, state, all the way down, are unconstitutional.
Yeah, it's probably that high.
Because they don't care.
Yes, they don't care.
They don't care. And unfortunately, the institutions that are supposed to be the safeguard against this, SCOTUS, for example, they're hearing cases from years ago still. Look at Biden administration, right? They were ordered. Let's talk about the student loans,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
You can't do that, dude. It's unconstitutional. I don't care.
And now they're doing even more.
Anyway.
This week,
Yeah.
they announced that they're doing even more.
Yeah. Babylon Bee was like, what was it? I don't know, dude. Babylon Bee is freaking hilarious. But they had one where it was like, Biden buys votes with student loan money or something. And
Did you see Babylon
true.
B with Sheila Jackson Lee for what she said?
Oh, speaking of, I'm glad you brought that up because listen, dude, I have to talk about this because it's so like, oh my God. So there are those people who believe, right, that the way they're going to introduce, quote, what the moon really is, right, is via people like Lee, right?
For what she said, yes.
Oh my God, dude. I'm sure you guys have seen it. You had to have seen it. It's like pure viral at this moment. She claimed that the moon is mostly gas.
Uh-huh.
Now it's one thing to claim the moon is hollow. I'm being, because one of the prevailing theories out there, right? Maybe we just wanted to talk about. No, we'll get into the conspiracy theory segment, but I do want to talk about this because it's fascinating, but B, the level of stupidity that exists out there is shocking. Not only does she need to learn about firearms, she needs to learn about the moon, okay? Because apparently in her mind, it's a gas giant, right? And remember, the sun is, quote, almost too hot to get near. You remember that part?
Uh-huh.
So look, here's the part of it, right? That is interesting to me. She goes, the moon is mostly made of gases, right? She's not saying the moon is hollow. And the reason I even mentioned that is because if you look up the original like lunar landing, right? One of those early missions, there was a ringing sound from the moon, like a bell. Have you heard of that?
I have not.
I'll show you. Hold on.
Okay.
It's fascinating. Okay, hold on. Ringing, because this leads into other stuff, which is why I want to show you. Hold on. Ringing sound from. Okay, so listen, here it is. I'm gonna show this on screen so you can follow along. If you just Google ringing sound from the moon, right? And granted, it's from Wikipedia, but there's evidence, right? Between 1969 and 1977, seismometers installed on the moon by the Apollo missions recorded moonquakes. The moon was described as, quote, ringing like a bell during some of these quakes, specifically the shallow ones. The phrase was brought to popular attention in March 1970 in an article in Popular Science. So it's been featured in Popular Science in 1970, which is well before they went crazy. Look it up. Fascinating. Now, if that's the case, and these people aren't lying for some unknown reason, right? If it legitimately produces like a ringing sound, that would tend to make someone believe that there is some sort of subterranean something there, right? Another interesting thing is, so they, and there's like, we can go deep down this rabbit hole. We're not going to, but it's one thing to say the moon is mostly hollow. I believe there's whatever in there, right? She may even have access to classified material that shows it's hollow, right? But to say it's mostly made of gas, that implies like Jupiter, Saturn, right? Isn't Neptune, I think,
gas giant too?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so, right? I'm not up on all my astronomy.
Yeah, I don't know astronomy very well.
Yeah. Okay. But okay. So the hollow ringing moon, right? Instead of going, hey, it makes a ringing sound, it's probably hollow, look it up. Nah. No, she's full on with it's mostly made of gas. Mm-hmm. Oh, and by the way, the sun's almost too hot.
Almost.
So
we can almost.
So we can get really close but not land, or we can like what?
Yeah, I don't know what she was talking about.
She doesn't know what she's talking about. That's the problem, bruh. Anyway, it never ceases to amaze me the stupidity of some of these people that have allegedly been elected to represent us on the federal level. Selected, elected, potato, right? So this is what I want to really get into. All right, so the Blaze Media. Scientists just test fired a cloud device over American soil. That's really like, with the ultimate aim of blocking sunlight. Now, I don't know if you saw this, but Bill Gates, several years ago, I think in the late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere around there, was wanting to do this. He wanted to do stuff to block out the sun.
And another thing with The Simpsons was right, because Mr. Burns tried to block out the sun, which is kind of interesting.
So, yeah. So bringing up The Simpsons is funny because I think there's I'd like to do a show where we put together all the times the Simpsons have been right. And then we talk about like, do you think they can predict the future? Or do you think, like some people have said, oh, it's just they're bound to get some right. There's so many episodes.
No.
Some of the stuff is so close. Like,
yeah.
Like, did you see, like, there's a lot of BS out there too. Let's be clear. There's some photoshopped images. There's some images that weren't even like allegedly screenshots from episodes that never aired. Like, there's some BS out there. At the same time, there's some seriously wild Simpsons predictions that came true. Like
Trump.
Trump's a prime example. But there's way more. Like, there's a lot. There's a freaking lot, dude. Like, a lot. Anyway, I remember when I was a kid, right? Not even a kid. Like in my early 20s, I had a buddy of mine who was like deep into all the conspiracy stuff, right? He started, I think it was like the late 90s, early 2000s. He kept talking about a person named Fred? I think it's Ted Gunderson. Have you heard the name?
Sounds familiar.
Okay. Ted Gunderson. I'm going to show you.
I think I've heard that name.
Former FBI. Okay. He was like the, here, we'll take his Wikipedia page just so you can see. He was an FBI special agent in charge, and he was the head of the Los Angeles office. He was the head of the Los Angeles FBI. Okay. He was an American author and a conspiracy theorist. Some of his FBI casework included the death of Marilyn Monroe and the assassination of JFK.
Oh.
He was the author of the best-selling book, How to Locate Anyone Anywhere Without Leaving Home. And in later life, he researched a number of topics, notably including satanic ritual abuse. Now, the reason I bring him up, okay, is because, dude, he was the leading edge of many of the conspiracy theories that are now being proven true. One example of that is so-called cloud seeding or chemtrails. Call it whatever you want, right? He came out with that in the 90s. Like, went on video, went in front of Congress. Like, he wasn't like me, some dude in in his home talking about there's some crazy stuff out there. No, he was an FBI agent who called this out. Like, he had pilots that went on record saying, yeah, we do this. This is something we do.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Like, look him up, man. Like,
yeah, he wasn't the guy I thought he was. I don't think I've ever heard of him.
Okay. Yeah, look, Ted Gunderson. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put the name into chat so you guys, if you watch it later. There you go. Some will work, some won't. Okay. Yeah. Ted Gunderson is the name. And like I said, he goes way back. And there are some really interesting theories. I'm trying to see. So, you know what? Here, let me show you guys. This is exactly the kind of BS I'm talking about right here. Gunderson became a leading figure on the far right and a leading anti-government conspiracy theorist. Yeah. I mean, he got some stuff wrong. The McMartin preschool case, the 1980s satanic panic, right? He made numerous confident statements supporting the truth of the supposed abuse ring and became a recognized spokesman on the dangers of satanic ritual cults, right? We learned later, here's the thing though, like, we learned later that these, at least to the level that they claimed, there wasn't this widespread brainwashing cult activity happening in regular suburban neighborhoods. That was what they were saying, that this was happening, right? I don't know if you remember you're a little young. You probably don't remember the 80s satanic panic.
I don't.
But everything was satanic, right? They went after D&D, Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
I was an avid D&D player when I was a teen because, like, you can be funny, you can use your charisma, you can be somebody else. I had a miserable childhood, so being someone else was, had a lot of appeal. Okay. So with the whole satanic panic thing in the 80s, there was this belief that D&D was the devil. It was like masquerading as something entertaining, but what it really is witchcraft, and it's going to swallow your soul and you're going to die.
Is this early 80s or in the mid 80s? I'm just curious.
I want to say it lasted for a little while. I'm trying to think of exactly the time period. Probably the late 80s, mid to late 80s.
Yeah.
Because I remember my grandmother, who was extremely religious. Like, you went to church every Sunday. You best not think about not going to church every Sunday. That's just the way it was. I had a whole thing where I had to live with them for a little bit because my mom was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and she kind of dropped me off on their doorstep and said, see ya. So I lived with them for a little while. During that period, my grandmother told me I had to get rid of the D&D books that I had, or she was going to burn them. So I hid them. Because that's what kids do, man. I don't want to give them away, but I don't want them to get burned. What do? Right? So I hid them. I hid them outside because I wasn't going to take the chance on her finding them in her home, because I still respect my grandparents. You know what I mean? But they weren't like, they were technically on her property, but they kind of weren't. I hid them like in the bank parking lot.
Okay.
So they were still like kind of on the edge, technically kind of thing, right? But here's the point, right? There were these like every freaking talk show had somebody on it that was talking about Satanism and how like their child had been corrupted by D&D, and like I felt genuinely bad for Gary Gygax, one of the guys who came up with Dungeons and Dragons, because they vilified him. Like the entire thing. I know you don't. No. I'm a D&D guy. I know who Gary is. That's okay, but it was it's a set of books. Right. And then it is as witchcrafty as your dungeon master wants to make it. They have some like pre-packaged stuff that you can do adventures, but no real DM leans on that. Right. You might do that once in a while, but if you're going to be a good DM, this is where it is. Right. Anyway. So there was this massive push. There was this story going around about this guy, and I think this actually happened, although I'm not sure the tie-in is accurate, about this guy who he played D&D and then he shot his grandmother with a crossbow and obviously he was mentally ill. Yeah. You can take anything. Look at today's addiction with social media. You can take anything and have too much of it. True. Just like ugly Japanese cars. You can easily have too much of that. I'm just being dumb. Same thing with domestic cars. Funnily enough, Son and I were just talking the other day how all cars kind of look alike now.
They kind of do.
They used to have this very like differentiation. You could I was an expert on taillights. I could look at the taillights and tell you exactly what make and model of the car, right? It's not a useful skill, but it existed.
It was a skill.
It was a skill, right? Now it's like they all look alike. Like all of them. They all look like rounded clay models of what I don't know. I was going to say something. I probably better not. But what certain people might think a car looks like, right? Not what a legitimate car looks like, but what they think a car looks like. That's what they look like now. Like, I remember when you had like muscle cars, for one. I miss muscle cars. They took the only like real, I won't say real, but the best selling muscle car, which is the Challenger. Okay. And they're making it all electric. They're not making any more gas Challengers. Hmm? Yeah, because of Biden. Yep. It's BS. Anyway, let's talk about this this story here real quick, because people need to be understand. people need to understand that this isn't just a conspiracy theory. This is happening. And this is just one example of it. The Marine Cloud Brightening Program's Coastal Atmospheric Aerosol Research and Engagement Project. That's a mouthful. Led by researchers from the University of Washington, took to the deck of the USS Hornet, which is a decommissioned aircraft carrier, first line there, to launch streams of particles into the sky above the San Francisco Bay. Their ultimate objective is apparently to block and reflect sunlight in hopes of limiting, quote, global warming. And it goes on, but I can only handle so much stupidity at one moment. So the short version is these idiots legitimately want to block out the sun. That's their goal. Speaking of that, right? It's only a kind of a segue, but have you like really looked at the opening ceremony of CERN? Yeah, you remember when they opened CERN? Like, what is it, like 10, 15 years ago now? When did CERN open?
CERN.
Yeah, you know, the CERN, the particle accelerator.
Oh,
Yeah, that.
that was like 5 years ago, wasn't
Hold on. When did CERN
I didn't
turn
know
on?
the title, but now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, when did CERN start?
2015?
No, that's not it. Okay, the CERN laboratory itself started in 1954, but that's not what I'm looking for.
I think it was 2015.
When did CERN turn on? 08.
08.
The first beam was circulated through the collider right here. 10th September 2008. Okay, have you looked at the opening ceremony from that?
I have not.
Oh, you're in for a treat.
Really?
You are in for
I
a
don't think I've seen
treat.
it.
If you haven't watched it, and I'm talking to any of you out there, right? All of y'all, go watch it. Because if all these people are like, oh, conspiracy theory, oh, this, all right, there's not actually people for example, there are people who claim that there are not high-placed people worshiping the devil. Okay? I am here to tell you there are. There absolutely, beyond a reasonable doubt, are. And I'm not talking about Photoshop pictures. I'm not talking about tweets that could be mislabeled or misconstrued. I'm talking about go watch this thing, and there is no freaking way you cannot see the demonic influence there.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it.
There's like two different ones. There was one where the initial opening ceremony, and then there was one they did another time. Hold on. Let me see. When did they have the weird? That's what I'm going to do a very dumb Google search. I'm going to put, when were the weird, what would it be? When were the weird events? Let's try that. Events at CERN. There we go. Okay, so that's not what I'm looking for. Okay, so let's see here. That's not what. Let's see if this is it. No, okay, this is not what I'm looking for, but okay, so let's see what this says. Okay, hold on. Here's one that allegedly debunks everything. Okay. So this story here, it says CERN was established in 1954. It's called the European Organization for Nuclear Research, or CERN. Go away. Was established in 1954 in Switzerland by 12 member states. Since then, it's swelled to 22 member states and has made dozens of important discoveries, including the Higgs boson, or God particle. Hey, did you know that the guy who discovered the Higgs boson particle, right, the physicist Higgs, he died on the date they flipped it back on?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. This was like April 8th, the day of the eclipse, right? They fired up the CERN thing again, and he died that day.
That's interesting.
Right. Does it mean anything? Who knows? But
Weird coincidence.
Interesting, right? No.
Weird coincidence.
It is a weird coincidence. Okay. It says here, but a powerful scientific laboratory like this is ripe for conspiracy theories, especially after it turned on the Large Hadron Collider. That's the thing, the LHC, right? That's the big thing. For a while before it hit the on button, people feared the Large Hadron Collider might destroy Earth, being the largest machine in the world used to smash subatomic particles together. But alas, it still has not. Before I go on, one of the theories, right, is that in 2012, we actually switched timelines.
I've heard that.
Have you heard that? That
I've also
CERN's
heard
responsible, and that, well, the Large Hadron Collider, that 2012, basically they opened a wormhole or something and we changed timelines. And that's why we have the Mandela effect, right?
Also, I've heard that 2016, was it 2016? I think maybe it was 2012 that the world actually ended.
Mm-hmm.
That too.
That's it. Yeah. That basically the world ended and we're like living in a simulation before they can unplug us all or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another conspiracy theory.
Yeah, there's tons of them. But it says here, while the kind of cutting-edge science discoveries made at CERN are thrilling, a number of theorists around the world still worry about the possibility of disastrous effects. Apparently, there's a podcast that says, should we be concerned? That's not what I'm looking for. Let's see here. Hold on. They say it's perfectly safe, of course. No, this is not what hold on. I'm going to find it because, hold on. Weird. Okay. Oh, the Gothard Base Tunnel. Okay. So this was the one that I was actually thinking of. It's not the only one, but the Gothard, G-O-T-T-H-A-R-D Base Tunnel opening ceremony. Have you seen that?
I have not.
Dude, they might strike me.
Yeah, I'll send it to me.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Look it up. Goddard, G-O-T-T. Hold on.
Or we could watch it when we're off the air.
Yeah, we'll watch it right after. Hold on. Okay, so there's another one. There was something else, though. Hold on. Okay, so here's the weird part, right? It says, okay, yeah. All right, so yeah. Look up. Now they're saying that the one that I was thinking of is actually a fake. I don't know, but let's see. Is this the one? Okay. Yeah. 2017. Okay. Here's the name. I'm not going to play it because actually this one might be okay, but I'm not going to take the chance. Look it up. I'm going to show you what it says. 2017 CERN opening ritual ceremony, the deleted scenes. Okay. I don't know. Okay. So no, this says it's the opening ceremony of the Goddard Tunnel. Okay. So that's the one though, which is associated with CERN. And that was in like 2016. And it is very, very suspicious. Gotthard, the name. Let me go back because I want to make sure I get it right. Yeah, Gotthard, Gotthard. Sarah, I can't help it. I'm a child. So, but look it up because it's basically, it was a, dude, it's wild. Like, I can't even describe it properly. We're going to watch it after we go off. I play it for you guys, but like YouTube's been just crazy lately. Anytime you access any videos, even under fair use law, I still get a strike. I'm not even worried about it anymore. Like, to hell with it. Look it up. It's worth your time. If you have not seen it, go to Gotthard opening ceremony and look it up, right? Watch it. Back to the cloud seeding, though. I can find it. There it is. These people legitimately want to block out the sun. And if you look up, like, I wish I could remember the year, but Gates has been talking about this for a long time. And look where his money's going. Look what he's doing. Like, there's really not much more I can say. Look, anything else you want to make sure we cover or talk about? I've been kind of blah, blah, blah.
Oh, you're fine. I was right. I looked it up, and assault weapons ban was from 1994 to 2004.
94 to 04, yeah. Which, again, did nothing.
Nope.
Not nothing. It didn't prevent anything. It didn't stop anything. People may or may not claim that it did. They're full of it if they do, because the statistics pulled from all of our federal agencies, not just one, because you can say, oh, the FBI statistics are skewed or this agency's statistics are skewed. Independent researchers, as well as various branches and arms of our dictatorial federal government, have confirmed it didn't do it. It didn't do squat. It did literally nothing. So all it made it was for criminals to be better equipped than law-abiding citizens.
And we're seeing that in major cities now.
Yeah, we are. And that's a good point. So you look at these various cities that have these extremely strict, let's just say that, extremely strict, in my opinion, draconian gun laws, where you have to apply before you can defend yourself. You have to go and you have, and there was a, I can't remember I think it's, is it New York Rifle Association versus NYC? I think it's something called something else, but the New York Rifle Association is a part of the lawsuit. And that's actually what tossed the concealed carry thing in New York. You had to apply, right? And then they were able to determine, they could say yes or no. You can or can't have a permit for a firearm, right? The Supreme Court ruled that's unconstitutional. You can't decide someone else's ability to defend themselves, right? So they're trying to do all kinds of crazy stuff with it. But the short version is you cannot restrict a person's right. You can't have a shall issue. You can have a shall issue, but you can't have a may issue statute, which means basically they can be required to give you a permit. There can be a permitting process, but they can't pick and choose who gets one.
I see.
And in New York, basically you had to prove that you needed a firearm.
It's like that in Chicago too.
Right. Which all these liberal cities, if you pay attention, and I'm not talking about versus this state or versus that city, in general, the crime rate is way too high in Chicago to justify you not being able to defend yourself. It's just that freaking simple.
And it's getting worse.
And that's why I do not go to Chicago. Yeah. I do not I don't care what's there. There have been like concerts we wanted to see and various things that the wife's like, come on, we can do. Nope. Yeah. If it's not coming to Indiana, I don't care.
Yeah, my brother and I haven't been to a Cubs game in a few years because of the violence.
Yeah.
We used to go to a Cubs game every year.
Did you?
Yeah, I'm a big baseball fan.
Oh, nice. I had a friend, he's now an idiot, but when we were kids, he was a huge White Sox fan, right? There was a tradition, for his family, White Sox. And I've only been to 2 baseball games my whole life, right? I went to a Cubs game with my grandparents, and the Cubs, they didn't just lose. They got stomped. It was like 9-1.
Ouch.
It was embarrassing. It was bad, right? But it happens, dude. They can't win them all, right? My friend, when I was a kid, his dad would save up. He'd put all his change in this big old, like a big 5-gallon water jug, right? That you put on the cooler, right? He put all his change in there throughout the year, all his change. And at the end of the year, he'd cash it in. And he'd get like $350, $400 for it, right? And then he'd take his kids to the Sox game. It was a once a year thing, and I got invited to go. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll go. Why not? The Sox won, right? Okay. The point is, the Cubs suck. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. My grandparents love the Cubs, dude. Like they lived the Cubs, so I can't even hate. No, they wouldn't like even go when we went, and this was I'm trying to think, man. When I went to the Cubs game, I was like maybe 10, so 84.
Wow,
and
that was a good year for the Cubs.
Yeah, it was just that one game, dude. Like, you know, so I don't know. I don't watch baseball anymore. I paid a little bit of attention when I was like friends with the guy who was super into the White Sox because it's, you know, I guess I'll pay attention kind of thing, right? But dude, you get into the stats and like you can like number nerds love baseball, dude. Like he was kind of a number nerd. As a matter of fact, I think he got into like futures, trading futures and like all that stuff. I don't understand any of it. I never looked into it. He's still an idiot, but I'm just talking smack. No, he's what's interesting is he grew up very, very conservative, right? His dad, hardcore conservative. His mom's just weird, but nice lady, very super nice lady, weird, but very nice. I'm not sure. She never really she was always working. She was a single parent. Here's the point. He was super conservative growing up. And then he married a teacher.
Oh.
Now he's a left-wing nut job who hates Trump. Period. End of story. That's the only thing that ever comes out of his mouth. And even better, he's on our school board.
Oh. But going back to the crime problem in Chicago.
Sorry.
SCOTUS tickets were as low as like $11 because nobody wanted to go to the game because the violence is so bad.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is that's the point. Even in the 80s, when we went to the Cubs game, right? My grandparents were talking on the way home and they were like, it's getting kind of dangerous. I don't know if we want to and this was the 80s, dude. Wow. Chicago Cubs games were not dangerous in the 80s.
Just up to a few years ago, Wrigleyville was pretty safe, but now it's getting
Yeah, now it's yeah. But that was one of the things that we talked about was, is it worth going to Chicago anymore? And one of the things we kind of sank a lot of money. We have a double track project here. They took South Shore is a train. If you guys aren't from the area, it's a train that runs from South Bend, Indiana, all the way to Chicago. And it was a great thing prior to COVID, I'd say. It was a good thing prior to COVID, but ridership had been steadily decreasing. But my wife even had a job where she worked in Chicago and she'd take the train back and forth because it's so much easier to get on the train and work or play on your phone or do instead of having to drive, right? You don't have to deal with Chicago traffic. You don't have to deal with the idiots. You don't have to deal with the.
When we went to Wrigley Field, my brother and I.
Did you guys take the train?
We took the South Shore.
Yeah, exactly. And here in Michigan City, downtown 11th Street, where the old station used to be in its heyday, not even heyday, because it was crumbling when in the 90s and early 2000s, before they shut it down. You could go in there, you could get a ticket, and then you could stand outside. And there was a cab company right next door, Ace Taxi. Scummy guy on that. I know. He touched my wife. Anyway.
Really?
Oh yeah. We actually, you know what? Yeah. So I'm not going to go too deep into this.
No.
I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I am going to say when I was 18, okay, and I worked at Ace Taxi in Michigan City. They used to be right next to the train station. They were actually in the same building, but it was like the far left portion of it when you're standing outside looking at it, right? And I had gotten my chauffeur's license, which is what you need in order to drive a taxi or a limousine in Indiana at the time, right? It was a special kind of license. It was a chauffeur's license. And my mom, we were living with my mom because I had just gotten married at 18. Yeah, genius move. So not. I had just gotten married and we were living with my mom and like it went kind of crazy as these things often do. And then the guy who owned the cab company, he lived in South Haven, Michigan. Okay. Actually, no, Bridgman. I don't know. Along no, I'm not one of those little towns in Michigan, right?
Okay.
Bridgman, South Haven, one of those little towns. It wasn't New Buffalo. It was north of New Buffalo. It was on Red Arrow Highway, but you keep going past New Buffalo on Red Arrow. And I think it's Bridgman. Anyway, big, beautiful white house up there, right? Gorgeous. Well, he offered to let us stay with him. Okay. Because I was like, look, dude, I might have to quit. I don't know where we're going to be living. He's like, oh, yeah, you could come stay with me. I got a big, and he did. It was a big house. It wasn't like you and me letting somebody live with us where it's like, you know what I mean? This was a massive palatial home, right? Tons. You could freaking have half a wing of a home and never see anybody else. Just hang out over there.
Wow.
Like it was big. It was beautiful. But he's like, yeah. We weren't there 48 hours, maybe even less. It might have been on the first night. I'm not sure. But basically, he called her into his room first to talk to her. And she comes into my room with tears talking about, he just did. No. And I'm like, nope. I said, we got to go before I kill an old man. We got to go. Like, because what are you going to do? It's already happened. I could assault him. But that's not going to solve me.
No.
And then I'm just going to go to jail and she's stuck there with him. So you do not leave my sight. Let's get our stuff and let's go. And that's what we did. So yeah. Anyway. Now I got to put this caveat out there, right? I trusted what she said, right? Because we're supposed to believe all women. No, I'm not even going to go there. No. I'm just being dumb.
All right.
Anyway, so I got off track, but the train station used to be this glorious. It was really pretty, man. Like, and I remember as a kid when I went there, that was before it really fell into real disrepair. You may not even, like, you're too young probably to remember it before it was anything other than an eyesore. Because it's been an eyesore for a while. And then they shut it down and they moved. You could still catch the train out there, but you couldn't actually buy a ticket in the station because the station itself was shut down. You would have to go to Carroll Avenue to buy a ticket.
I see.
Or I think you could pay cash in the train, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But yes, you can buy a ticket.
You can buy a ticket at Carroll. I'm not sure.
You can buy it on the train.
On the train, you could pay for a ticket on the train. So you could cash it on 11th Street and not have a ticket and still pay for a ticket. But they would take you all the way to Chicago, drop you off at Randolph Street, right?
Yeah. You can even go further than that. You can go to...
But then you had to take like Metro if you wanted to go further, right? Yeah, but just the South Shore itself would drop you off at the Randolph Street station, I believe. Anyway, that was kind of its heyday. And then COVID happened, right? Before COVID, in like, I think it was like when did the whole double track murmuring start? I think it was like 2016, wasn't it?
I was going to say 2017, maybe.
Yeah, somewhere around there, these people got together. And by people, I mean both elected officials and unelected bureaucrats got together and said, you know what we need? We need 2 tracks going to Chicago.
Wasn't that one of Viscosity's final
Yep.
projects?
Yep.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Before he retired.
So allegedly, this project was supposed to cost like $600 million, right? It was going to be a $600 million project, and it was going to have 2 tracks, and both of those tracks were supposed to be used for passengers. There wasn't supposed to be freight on those tracks. That was one of the conditions, right? That's how it was sold. So you know where this is going.
Yep.
Now, ridership had been steady on the decline even up to COVID. But about 2018, 2019, they secured the funding. Everybody was going to kick in a little bit. All the various municipalities are going to, we'll give some of our tax money to make this double. Now, here's my question, and it was the same question I had at the time, and I have it now. Why in the frick are the taxpayers paying for a private company?
Yeah.
Because that's who they are. South Shore is a private company who charges ticket prices on their train to take you. It's not like a freaking bus. It's not like a public service. It's not like you get, low income can get a ticket kind of crap. None of that. Go ahead.
And wasn't most of the business that built it from Illinois?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that part.
Yeah, so here's the next part, right? The next part is this $600 million that was supposed to be ballooned up to over $1 trillion.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. If you look at the final cost, I think it doubled. I think it's like $1.2 trillion. The final cost for this, quote, double track project, right? And this tells you exactly how out of touch some of these lawmakers are. Because I met with one while I was running for office for state rep, okay? And they were genuinely excited about the double track project. They thought they accomplished something. I kid you, they were like, oh, double track. I said, people hate it.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's a waste of money. No, to save what, 5 minutes? At best. That's at best. For Michigan City, maybe 15.
Were they running for office or were they in office?
They were already in office.
Okay.
They were one of the people involved in getting it passed, right? And so, they're going to back it, right? But instead of being like, with ridership declining, I don't know. Anyway, so they put the double track in. It's now there, right? The place that had the beautiful old train station, that's been razed to the ground. There's nothing there anymore. And they're building condos on that spot. Yeah. All the old houses that were along 11th Street were all sold to developers or people evicted or sold in tax sales. As a matter of fact, there's one property in particular at the corner of 11th and Michigan Boulevard. Used to be the Dodge lot. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know Michigan City very well.
Oh, okay. If you go down like you're going to the beach,
Okay.
down Michigan Boulevard. You know where the little gas station is there on the left-hand side that has the Chester chicken?
I think, yeah.
Just past that light, which is Vale, right? Poplar, Vale, leads into Springland. That little gas station there, just past it on the left-hand side is the intersection of 11th Street, which is where the South Shore used to roll down the middle of the road, right? There's a corner property there in between 11th and Michigan Boulevard that used to be a Dodge lot.
Okay.
It was a car lot, right? And it was, Chrysler, Dodge, all this, right? That property was on the tax sale for $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't have an extra 10 grand because
No.
I ran for office and pissed all my money away, but no, I'm just kidding. I learned a lot. So I'm not better. No. Look, but it's an interesting example of these properties that just happen to be in the tax sale, right?
Yeah.
And some of them were suspiciously low priced. And then these development companies win these auctions, and then they turn around and sell them to the South Shore at a greatly inflated rate. And that's how your local government makes money. Well, I'm sorry. That's how your local government officials make money.
Exactly.
All right. I think we're out of time.
All right.
Besides, I really want to show you this video. That's how nuts it is. Look it up. Gotthard Tunnel. I said it without laughing. Until you did. No, I'm just kidding. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Gotthard Tunnel opening. Check it out.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. When do you have your schedule yet or no? Okay, we'll let you know. I've got some upcoming shows. We had to reschedule Juanita Haney for treasurer to the 16th because she actually had a scheduling conflict. So she will be here Tuesday. I got other stuff, but I don't have it in front of me. So pay attention. That's all I can tell you. Now look it up. I'll make sure to put it on a graphic. I had one earlier on X, but I'm not sure where it went. So I'm going to make a new one. This works because, like I said, we had to reschedule a show. So some of the people we have coming up, we have Micah Beckwith, who's running for lieutenant governor, which, you know what, I do want to mention this real quick. So in the history of Indiana, right, the way that they elect the lieutenant governors is basically, it's a formality. Okay. The governor candidate says, I want Buck Harder, right?
The same way that the president does the vice president.
Yeah. They pick who they want. Well, this individual, Micah Beckwith, he's bucking convention. And he's saying he's running independent of any gubernatorial candidate. He's just straight running for lieutenant governor. Nobody does that here in Indiana.
No. So
we're going to have him on the show.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I guess he's like super religious. He was, because I was texting him. They called me, right? I don't have people's number. This person called me because I'm signed up for the election to be a delegate, right? So they go through and they're like, okay, who's signed up? Let's call them all just in case, right? And they call you and they ask you for your vote, right? And I'm like, you know what? Instead of going through all that, I'm going to stop you, right? Number one, I haven't actually won the election yet. But number two, how about you come on the podcast?
Good idea.
Have an opportunity for me to sit there and ask you the questions that I want to know.
Is he going to be in studio or on?
No, he's going to be remote, right?
How will that work?
What's up?
How will that work, though, with him running as lieutenant governor?
Okay, so here's how it works. If I'm elected as a delegate, right, I go down to the convention. What's up?
I guess continue. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I was just going to say, don't they usually pick? I'll let you finish. Just finish what you were going to say. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I understand what you're asking. So basically, the way that it normally works is the governor candidate, they win or whatever, right? But they'll say like, I'm running with Buck Harder, right? And I, vote harder, right?
Yep.
So, Katie, come on, man. Nothing. Anyway.
You're trying to hold it in.
He's like, stop. You're being stupid. No, look. Okay. And then he's like, the convention delegates just vote.
Oh, I see.
You can vote for whomever you want, but it's very, like, in the past, it's always been a very obligatory type deal. It's a done deal. In the past, it's always been whoever they want, we're just going to vote for them and it's done. Right? In this case, this guy, he's running independent of a governor candidate. Nobody else is running for lieutenant governor. As a matter of fact, I heard that there is a candidate who is quite popular, who is one of the leading people who is considering Tom Dermody for lieutenant governor.
Really?
I hope to God that's not the case. Yeah. Yeah. I hope to God that is not true. I hope it's just a rumor.
And
for those who don't know, he is the current mayor of LaPorte, Indiana, and he's very controversial.
Are you sure he didn't make the rumor?
That is possible. That is possible. But so Micah's team had reached out to me and I answered. I'm like, yeah, why don't you come on the podcast? We were finally able to set a date. So he's coming on. I think it's the 17th. I could be wrong. Pay attention to the channel, but I think it might be a little after that. But I talked to him via text because the person who called me was like, here's Micah's cell number so you can communicate with him and set it up, right? And then I texted him and he's like, let me have my team contact you. I'm like, okay, that was kind of pointless, but I got his number now. So vote for him because at least then I got somebody's number in government. No, I'm just kidding.
That would be crazy if he became lieutenant governor.
Right. You know what's interesting, and I know we got to wrap it up, but like I keep thinking of interesting stuff. That whole poll that I was talking about the various gubernatorial candidates.
Yeah.
One of the questions they ask is like, how familiar are you with this person? Have you heard of them? Right. And you go down through all of them and all of that is whatever, except about 50% of the people polled have never, quote, never heard of Suzanne Crouch, even though she's been the lieutenant governor for 8 years. That's coming up on 8 years. And she was former like Secretary of Agriculture and was in the House.
Wow.
The Indiana House, not the U.S.
That's crazy.
Right? Dude, like pay attention. Like, come on, man. Like you may not know much about her policies because you got to look for that, right? You got to actually, okay. But you can't tell me you've never heard Holcomb Crouch.
Wow. That's really surprising.
Right.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised.
I shouldn't be surprised either. And these are people who, like, in general, the poll was targeted at, people who are involved politically, at least allegedly. Yeah. So I don't know. This is also the same poll because when they just did a poll not that long ago, over 40% of people were undecided in the state of Indiana.
Was it 42%?
Yeah, it was like 42%, which is more than enough to swing an election.
Uh-huh.
Now it's like only 10% are undecided.
So people are
allegedly. But again,
early voting started too. For Indiana.
Yep, early voting has started. It is now officially too damn late to register for the primary. It is not too late to register for the general election. You can get on there. If you have not registered for the primary, you suck. I'm kidding, obviously, but a lot of people underestimate the importance of the primary.
They do.
And I am here to tell you the primary is more important than can possibly be explained, because in most cases you are faced with your standard candidate, right? Which your establishment pick. Those are the people with the money. Those are the people you see the ads for. Those are the people that, like, you know who they are. They have the name recognition. And then you'll have people, I'm not saying she's a good candidate, but I'm putting her out there as an example, Jamie Rittenauer, who does not have big money donations, who is not plastered across your screen, who has been excluded from debates. Who are you more likely to vote for? Especially if you don't vote in the primary. Who's getting on? It's not going to be her. No. If you don't have a groundswell of people to the primary voting booth to vote for her, she's never going to make it through. There's no way in hell. She's polling at like 2, 3, 4%. Never going to happen unless you get those undecided votes and you get people off their butts and into that voting booth on primary during the primary to vote for her. That's the only way. And it's position after position after position after position. We could go on, but that's why it's important. Vote. Absolutely. Get out there and vote. You may not look. I'm just going to throw this out there. Even if you're a huge Trump supporter, right? I am. I had a sign behind me for years on my show, but if I'm cardboard sign with him with a like a dry erase board, basically an empty board, right? With him holding it. I had my sign, right? To where he was holding my sign up. The cats eventually did so much damage to it that I can't have it anymore. But I'm a Trump guy. I love me some Trump, especially nowadays. But you know what? I used to be apologetic for Trump a little bit. I'd be like, yeah, I kind of wish he wouldn't say some of the stuff that he does. I kind of wish he'd back off the tweets a little bit. No, I am 1,000% call him a bitch. Like, nowadays, like I said, they set the terms. They establish the parameters. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. And there's people, oh, it's not very presidential. No, it is. In today's day and age, it's exactly what we need. Burn it to the ground, all of it. All of it. Bring the whole federal government to its knees. Get rid of all these agencies, all these unconstitutional agencies, which I foresee that actually happening.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. Because SCOTUS has already ruled on it. All these federal agencies are nothing more than pencil pushers at this point. Their rules have no teeth now.
Uh-huh.
So then if Congress cannot delegate authority to this agency, which was that was the intent, right? The intent of all these various regulatory agencies was so that Congress didn't have to do their job. That's really what it comes down to. Let them handle that, right? It's like when you're working at the office and you get to hire an assistant and you make them do all your work. That's the kind of thing we're dealing with. So they came up with these various regulatory bodies so they could control these various areas. ATF, FBI less so. It's more of a law enforcement, but EPA, ATF, all these other agencies, right? Do your job. Get rid of all those agencies and do the job we hired you to do, which is make laws about this stuff. Or here's a concept, we don't need more laws. We actually need a lot less, which is why I'm happy when a particular lawmaker says, yeah, we didn't get anything done this session. Good.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, I'm glad, which is the only good thing about Pat Boy, in my opinion. She doesn't actually get anything done.
No, she doesn't.
Which, okay, there's good and bad to that. And somebody actually said that when I was like talking about, she hasn't accomplished anything. He's like, good, I'm glad. But that's the problem. And I think that these agencies are going to be phased out. Now, how that's going to be the big trick.
I was just going to say is,
yeah,
doing it's going to be difficult.
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting. And, for those people out there who may or may not have friends, family, etc., who work for the government, I'm sorry. If they lose their job, I legitimately am. That sucks. It sucks when you lose your job. Maybe they should learn to code. I'm sorry. I couldn't help it. I had to.
Well, have a good night, everybody.
Yeah, have a good night. On that note, God bless you. God bless Indiana, and God bless the United States of America. And just remember, if you don't vote for me, you're not.